Hi, this video tutorial I will cover HTTP Session Binding Listener introduction. Suppose an object implements HTTP Session Binding Listener, then that object will be notified when it is bound to the session or unbound from the session. Okay, and here you can see the user which implements HTTP Session Binding Listener. It has two attributes, name and age. So whenever this user object is bound to the session, this user object will be notified. Okay, here you can see user equal to new user, and the name of the user is Ram, and age is 12. So I am bounding to the session using HTTP session dot set attribute method. Okay, so whenever this user object is bound to the session, it will be notified. Okay, so event name is HTTP session binding event. That event will be sent it to the user object by the container. Okay, and whenever unbounding happens, meaning suppose session is invalidated, that time user object will be removed from the session. Okay, that time also this user object will be notified because this user object implements HTTP session binding listener. Okay, and we will see what is this HTTP session binding listener. So HTTP session binding listener is an interface, and if your object wants to get notified whenever it is bound to the session or unbound from the session, then you can implement this HTTP session binding listener interface. Okay, and it has two methods. The first method is value bound. So whenever object is bound to the session, this method will be called, and whenever object is unbound from the session, this value unbound method will be called, and both method will receive HTTP session binding event. Okay, and from HTTP session binding event we can get the attribute name and value which has been bound or unbound from the session. Okay, and also you can get the current session object. Here we can see some of the important points related to HTTP session binding listener. The first point is whenever particular type of object is added or removed or replaced in the session scope, and based on that, if you want to perform certain activity, then we should go for HTTP session binding listener. Okay, and the second point is the HTTP session binding listener we no need to configure in web.xml. Okay, so whenever object is added to the session, the container will check the object is implemented HTTP session binding listener. If it is implemented, then the particular object will get notified. Okay, and same thing will apply for when object is unbound from the session, then the container will check the object is implemented HTTP session binding listener. If it is implemented HTTP session binding listener, then the container will send the notification to the particular object which implement the HTTP session binding listener. Okay, and suppose we configured both attribute listener and binding listener, then first binding listener will be executed followed by the attribute listener. Okay, so binding listener will be given high priority than the attribute listener. Okay, and this is about HTTP session binding listener introduction, and thanks for watching. Bye.